How many? Wait. I'd like to go. I love Feather Falls. Feather. Have you been to Feather Falls? It's so beautiful, I think. Oh, really?
A retreat for the Chancellor of Peralta.
Peralta.
It was in the Peralta district.
No.
Yes.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to go to item number 4.5, and Interim Director of Workforce and Economic Development, Lynn Shaw. You here?
Yes, she is.
Has somebody seen Lynn Shaw?
She likes to make an.
Don't be late when you're an interim.
Yeah.
Humor's contagious.
Right. You know how to make an entrance.
Oh, thank you. So the 2018 Strong Workforce Stars, I was out there networking with people. That was great. Sorry I'm late. President
Networking, that's a good term.
Yeah? Good excuse? Yeah. President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, and Board of Governors. We have many of the stars in the room from San Diego, so I want to spend the time introducing you to them, but the way to get a star is students improve their earnings by 50% or more, 70% or more of the students attained a regional living wage, and 90% or more were employed in a job similar to their field of study. So there were 114 gold stars. That does not mean one at every college. It just happens to be the same number. There were 296 silver stars and 977 bronze stars. So the regional summary is this way, and you see that the Bay Area, one of the bigger regions, received the most gold stars, 30. Oh, are you happy about that?
Gotta shut them out.
Yeah. But there were many stars spread out among many colleges. And if a gold star means you achieved all three thresholds, a silver is 2 of the 3, and a bronze is 1 of 3. So here's another visual just showing the number of stars in each region. The yellow is the gold, the gray is the silver, and the bronze is the other bar. So you can just see a visual representation. So these stars, we did sort of an analysis, a deeper research, a little bit of a deeper dive, and we found out the things that kind of helped make a program a star. Connection to industry, career directed, meaning they're connected to an actual career that has a living wage. They're faculty led. The faculty are also connected to industry or maybe came from industry. Student centered, we looked at what students really need. And then data informed, make sure it's actually tying to a career that has a skills gap. And then finally, intersegmentally connected, meaning we're connected with our K-12 partners and our university partners. And those things aren't always easy to do, but the gold stars all seem to have done all those things. We are trying to promote the stars and let people know who the stars are. So we do have a website where you can look at the college, you can look at the region and see the number of stars. And we are planning to put the star on the Here to Career app, which is an app that students can use to sort of figure out their career direction. And that's upcoming. And now I want to let you know the stars in the region that we're in. So when I call your college, would you please stand up? Grossmont College, registered nursing. And keep standing, okay, because you're going to move in a minute. Miracosta College, registered nursing. Calamar College, apprenticeship carpentry, inside wireman, basic police academy, registered nursing. San Diego Mesa College, physical therapy assistant. San Diego Miramar, diesel technology. And finally, registered nursing, Southwestern.
San Diego City.
Oh, San Diego City's college, I skipped you. Apprenticeship, my own trade, apprenticeship, electricity lineman. So you might, could you please all move to the front? We're going to do a photo op with the chancellor, the board president, and the vice president quickly. Thank you. So while they're moving to the front, I just want to.
We're gonna go.
Oh,
back.
in the back. Oh, sorry, in the back. Yeah. So while they're moving, I just wanted to add one final thing. You might notice a theme in the programs that received a star. And the theme is many of them that are health programs, and also ones that are public safety, like fire, police. Those are many of the stars. And also, my favorite, the construction industry, the apprenticeship programs. They often have received stars. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Michelle? Yeah.
I can't,
It was cool. Like,
I agree.
you know?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, so
Everything's changing.
you talk to Tom,
That's really kind of old. Yeah, because this is an old issue.
whatever.
Young people. Old thinking.
So you can see how excited people are about the strong workforce stars. Thank you very much.
Right. It's not interactive like Jimmy Kimmel goes in the audience and all that.
And they break it up on the show.
Thank you all and congratulations. It's definitely the most star-studded board meeting we've ever had. I keep trying.
Well, that's you. I'm not gonna give you a break.
All right, next up, item 4.6, spotlight on vision for success, Executive Vice Chancellor Laura Hope.
Good morning, President Epstein, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board. It's my pleasure to introduce the spotlight on the vision for success, which, as you know, is something that we do at every board meeting. And this time, because we're at Southwestern, we wanted to make sure to feature one of their many fine programs. And as you see from the background information, this particular item focuses on a real growth area that California has had as it relates to the education of incarcerated students or students who were formerly incarcerated. And the current terminology that's used for those students is justice involved. So you'll see that term continuously in a lot of the literature regarding this topic. So as a result of the Hancock Bill, which was approved in 2014, colleges were able to really expand their efforts on serving students who are incarcerated. And as a result, California, as we've learned from the Opportunity Institute and the Stanford Justice Center, is really a leader in incarcerated education. We have a community college opportunity in all 35 state prisons in California with over 3,000 students enrolled. And that is more than any other state, and we've scaled to that level essentially in 3 years. So there's a lot to be proud of there, especially with a college like Southwestern that's so focused on equity, inclusion, and support for the community. This college has really risen to that call, and they're going to be presenting on their work at Richard Donovan Correctional Facility. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Murillo to come up and introduce her team and present on their work.
Thanks, Laura. Well, it's good to see you again, and again, we're very excited that you're here. So we have a little bit of a PowerPoint that I think we're bringing up, I hope, shortly. Oh, I get it. I get to do it. This is Renee Kilmer. She's our interim vice president of academic affairs. We are so excited to have her here, and she's going to leave us in December, so we're not happy about that. Anyway, just going to give you a little bit of an overview about the college. So we've talked to several of you. You've asked a lot of really good questions. We'll try to answer those. Southwestern College was founded in 1961, and we just celebrated our 57th birthday, so we're very excited with a month of giving. And it's operated basically, started out of the Chula Vista High School, and I think that was a question somebody asked me. And the groundbreaking for this site, the Chula Vista site, was February 14th, 1963. Construction costs were $6 million, and it started serving with 1,675 students. I think that's pretty cool because today we're 27,000 students annually. So I had to bring a visual. I just wanted you to see that this was in the middle of fields, this campus. So this tells you a lot about what vision can do, because now the Chula Vista campus sits in the middle of the whole service territory. And once upon a time, it was in the middle of fields. So there it was in its first construction mode, and these are all fields around it. I like to use that because I believe in vision. If you don't know where you want to be and what you want to do, you won't get there. So that's why we appreciate the vision for success. So these are our current locations. And we have the Chula Vista campus, Otay Mesa, San Ysidro, National City, and our Coronado, our aquatics center. And I'm really, again, people were thinking ahead when they put these sites and centers into place because they serve communities that really need these centers. because there's a high poverty rate and the lack of transportation in National City and San Ysidro. Our annual operating budget is $121 million, and I already told you what our students are that we serve. I want to tell you a little bit about our students because I think it's really important to who we are. We are about 85% diverse. 67% of our students are Hispanic, and we have a population of Asian, Filipino, and Pacific Islanders that's now grown to about 12% in the region, and we're continuing to see grow. I think it's also important that you know that 60% of our students are under the age of 24, so a very young population here. And we also, I think it's really critical for us, some of our students, about 61% are part-time. And I think that that's actually a little less than the statewide figures. I was just looking at those and they seem to be a little closer to 70%. So you can kind of see under 29, about 79% of our students are under 29. And I think this is another really important statistic for Southwestern College. 80% of our Southwestern students qualify for financial aid. And about 73% of them actually receive the California Promise. So we are about equitable educational attainment. So we know our why. We're very clear that we believe in equity and serving our students. So we are very focused on a systematic cultural change, and as Laura noted a few minutes ago, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are working very hard on that at Southwestern to make sure that we bring everybody into the conversation and serve them well. We are a Jaguar Pathways College. We are part of the Pathways program, and the reason we're doing Pathways is because it's all about equity. We've seen the data, what it does for the achievement gap, and we are dedicated to that. We are revising our vision statement to make sure that we are including leader in equitable education that transforms the lives of students in our communities. And we wholeheartedly agree that the Chancellor's Office Vision for Success is what we need to be doing. And we are aligning ourselves. Our governing board will be meeting this Saturday and actually incorporating these into their priorities. So thank you for that vision. Our economic and workforce community development impact is about $931 million with 12,000, about 13,000 jobs to our community. I just would love to note that on skill builders, because we look at our numbers a lot, we actually exceed the statewide averages in making sure that our students are making more money because they come to us and go to classes. The other thing I'd like to highlight for you, because we look at our data a lot, is our transfer English for the first year. We exceed the statewide levels, and I think every time I say that to somebody, they don't believe me. I'm serious. It's kind of like, wait a minute, and that's a source of pride for us. As you've seen, lots of things going on, Propositions R and Z. In 2008, we had $389 million bond, and on Proposition Z, in November of 2016, $400 million. Several of you really enjoyed our wellness and aquatics complex, and our plaza building at the Higher Education Center, National City, was just completed this last spring. A great place to be. Under construction, our math and science and engineering building, which will be opening in spring, we are told, and our Performing Arts Center, which you saw the construction on in our College Police building. I think when you come back here in 14 years, or 10 years, again, I hope, you were here in 2004, hopefully some of you will still be here, you will see a whole new college in front of you. And so I'm going to turn this over now to Renee Kilmer to talk about our restorative justice program.
Good morning and welcome. So as Dr. Murillo has mentioned, the college over the decades has grown, expanded tremendously, and we're still on the path of expansion. We're moving that equity needle out to the correctional facilities in the region, and I think if we think about equity, for examples, you can't go any further than the justice system, where inequities occur at such a high rate. And we're trying to solve some of that problem by offering programs at the prisons, the jails, and to our previously incarcerated students here on campus. So a little bit of the historical context, as you know, when AB 1391 was passed, Southwestern initiated programs at 2 facilities. The first was in spring of 2016. It was Donovan Correctional Facility in Otay Mesa, and then in fall was the East Mesa Reentry Facility. Donovan is a CDCP, CDCR institution, and East Mesa is operated from the Sheriff's Office. We started with 56 students at Donovan and 2 3-unit courses, and at East Mesa, 22 students with 1 course. It was funded, as you know. The students were eligible then for the Second Chance Pell Pilot Grant. It funded many of the students, not all, so we leveraged our resources here to provide the funding for the additional students in the facilities through our student equity. The enrollments over the last 2 years through spring of 2018, we've served 281 discrete students at Donovan and 72 at East Mesa for a total of 1,095 course enrollments. These 2 facilities are male facilities, and the students range from 21 to 65. Very excited about the programs that we're offering there. From the outset, we started with the Associate Degree of Transfer in Business Administration, so most of the courses were in Business, CIS, and the General Ed to lead students to that degree. But we are adding 2, the ADT in Communication. This is actually an interesting discussion we've been having with San Diego State, who wants to offer the bachelor's degree program at Donovan, and we're forming a 2+2 with them, hopefully. We're still in the initial stages, but they have initiated this with us through their Project Rebound. So we will offer the two-year degree, which will allow the students then to go into any number of bachelor degree programs, depending on what they select to put out there. Even more exciting for us is the Certificate of Proficiency in American Sign Language. If you know what's going on nationally in the corrections, is that more and more hearing impaired and deaf inmates create an additional struggle for the facilities. CDCR wants to have prisoners who are trained in ASL, and hopefully to get a degree in, so to be an interpreter, one needs to have a bachelor's degree. It can be in any field, but then they have to have the certificates, 1st and 2nd level, for ASL and interpreting. We were approached by them to offer the certificate at Donovan, which is beginning this fall. They have just transferred in from across the state inmates from different prisons that have the bachelor's degree already, so that they can hit the ground running. We'll start with our ASL class this fall and continue through, so that those student inmates, when they are released, will have their degrees and certificate in hand. We're very, very excited about that. The courses we've offered, actually 48 different classes at the 2 correctional facilities since 2016. They are in 13 distinct disciplines, and that will be growing as we add degree and certificate programs. What I think we're most happy about and proud of is the completion rates and the success rates. At Donovan, the completion rate over the 2 years is 93.5% and a success rate of 85.9%, extremely high, especially given the population. And last spring, those students taking 12 units, 6 of them got a 4.0 GPA and 5 got a 3.5 to 3.9 GPA. At East Mesa Reentry Facility, the completion rate is 94.7% and a success rate of 87.2. I think the students are doing something right there, the faculty are doing something right there, and we're just very, very proud of their successes. This is also a regional effort. It's not only one college. There are 9 colleges in our region, the San Diego and Imperial Valley. The SEDICA regional consortium is under the umbrella of the SEDICA CEOs, who embraced this idea of our working together across district lines and having conversations and sharing with one another best practices. We meet regularly, the colleges as well as representatives from San Diego State's Project Rebound, which is their Justice Involved program. And then more importantly, maybe, is all of the partners from corrections, county and state representatives. So you can see from there Donovan, Department of Parole, but also the Sheriff's Office. And the San Diego County Office of Education, the Juvenile Courts and Community Schools, which works with the youth who are incarcerated or at risk of being incarcerated, and we do offer non-credit courses at the juvenile facility. And just last week, actually, met with the representatives from SDCOE and JCCS to expand our efforts with those who have recently been released to come here to campus, as well as identifying some of those students high at risk for becoming justice involved and catching them before they end up in that system. Get them in our system, not theirs. Our collaborative efforts through the consortium was to have the first annual Restorative Justice Summit. This was last May here at Southwestern. We hosted it. 100 people attended, right around 100 people. We had 3 just amazing panels. The Donovan and EMRF correction staff had a panel talking about what their efforts are inside in education and getting their inmates out into society and an educational path. Some of the formerly incarcerated students were here on a panel. Very compelling stories. They tell it the way it is. And then, of course, some of our faculty that teach at Donovan and EMRF held a panel also, so that they could explain what it's like to teach there and teach to these students. So on that note, I would just like to say it takes a village. We have just a wonderful restorative justice team here at Southwestern for a comprehensive program where we're offering programs in the facilities, here on campus, with the juveniles, and also an urban scholars program. We've had a year. That's a club for previously incarcerated students here on campus. And I would like to give a shout out to San Diego City College, who initiated that Urban Scholars program a couple of years ago and became a model for ours. If I could just take a moment to introduce the team. Not all of them are here, but they are an amazing group, and without them, we wouldn't have these successes. First is Patrice Milkovich, the director of Crown Cove Aquatic Center and Restorative Justice Program. And Patrice is, just so you know, this program wouldn't be what it is without her. The passion and zealousness that she brings. She works directly with Donovan and EMRF and juvenile facilities and here on campus, and without her, we wouldn't be where we are. It takes a leader like that, someone who's willing to get out there, and she's also very active statewide, so that's how we got the ASL program going and all of that, so many kudos to her. The rest of our team, Guadalupe Corona, Everett Garrett, Patty Larkin, Nick Montez, Chris Perry, John Reeder, Angelica Suarez, Suzanne Woods, and numerous full-time and adjunct faculty who couldn't be here but who teach and counsel our incarcerated students at the facilities. And with that, our students, thank you. And if you have any questions, the experts are here to answer them.
Any comments from the board?
I think that this is just God's work. It's really, really. We had a board member, Scott Budnick, who spent a lot of his time on this issue, and he did extraordinary things. Board member Perry knows him personally, and well, I should say. And so, just keep up the good work and see it, and let us know how we can support you.
Member Haynes.
So I just want to thank everyone for doing this particular work. Just as Board Member Shaw said, so in so many cases, these are the forgotten folks who come back and re-enter and have very few opportunities. I had the pleasure of attending the A to Men conference and met wonderful young men, but I was very surprised about the number of contacts that are made in the African American. I wasn't surprised, but so many of those young men have had some connection to law enforcement that have been negative. And so by having education come in and provide positive opportunities for them is just wonderful work. So thank you very much for it.
Okay. The last item before board member reports is the state and federal legislative update with Executive Vice Chancellor Laura Mattoon. That's what it says here. I was wondering about that. All right, strike that.
Doris.
We have a PowerPoint that should be coming up here, but I'll go ahead and begin. Good morning still. I know we're running tight on time. We'll try and be quick with our presentation this morning. I just quickly wanted to cover a few of the activities that have occurred since our last board meeting on the state and federal update side. We had 3 major events in and around the Capitol. The first was on August 8th. We held a Guided Pathways Day in the Capitol that focused on the release of our 1-year implementation report. I want to thank Executive Vice Chancellor Laura Hope, obviously Chancellor Oakley, visiting Dean Rob Runquist, as well as 4 of our colleges who came to participate in a legislative briefing and a private briefing with key legislative staffers. Representatives from Mount Sac, Bakersfield, Skyline, and Sierra all participated. I also participated in a legislative hearing focused on the development of an integrated data system for K-12 through workforce. Generally, the segments that participated supported the development of such a system, and the members were very interested in how they could support the new system with a new administration coming in the governor's office. And then finally, on September 7th, our office participated in a briefing with the Public Policy Institute of California focused on the early results from co-requisite remediation happening across the state. It shows that co-requisite remediation is having a major impact on student success rates through transfer level math and English. So I was happy to participate in that panel with Katie Hearn from the California Acceleration Project and also the president of Las Positas College. I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Vice Chancellor Tracy Thomas, who's done a great job taking the lead on the legislative front for the last 6 months.
Thank you. President Epstein, Vice President Haynes. I wanted to go over the bills, give you an update on the bills since the last meeting. The legislature recessed on August the 31st of this year, and we had 2 bills that were still pending in the process that were sponsored by the Board of Governors. The first one was AB 1935 by Assemblywoman Irwin that dealt with supervised tutoring. This bill would have allowed colleges to receive apportionment for providing supervised tutoring to students in courses that were degree applicable and transferable. And this was designed to provide sufficient instructional supports around AB 705. The bill enjoyed widespread support throughout the system. It moved through the process unanimously in the Assembly and in the Senate Education Committee. However, the bill was held in Senate Appropriations for concerns over costs. The other bill was AB 3255. It was a technical cleanup bill. It was an omnibus bill of the Assembly Higher Education Committee, and it just simplified the administration of a couple of programs we have. There were also 6 bills that passed the legislature that were supported by either the Chancellor's Office or the Board of Governors that are currently pending with the Governor. The first one is AB 1786 and SB 1701. Those both deal with credit for prior learning. They require the Chancellor's Office to develop some best practices, to do some professional development around those 2 issues so that we can get them more penetrated throughout the system. The next one was AB 1805. Again, this was related to AB 705. And in case you're wondering, yes, Senator Irwin's office likes the 5. And this bill will require that colleges let students know what their placement policies are, and that they do that as part of orientation. They do that in the catalog, they do that online, and they do that in any type of interaction between the counselor and the student. Additionally, it requires the colleges to place on their website their placement results as a result of AB 705. The next bill is AB 2248 by Assemblyman McCarty. This bill will require the California Student Aid Commission and institutions of higher learning to inform students of the 4-year limitation on Cal Grant awards, and to also let them know that they need to take 15 units a semester or 30 units in a calendar year in order to graduate in 4 years. The next bill is AB 3101. This was a bill that is designed to simplify the CC apply process such that it only includes information that is required either by the state government, the federal government, or the chancellor. And it also exempts from the residency requirements students who are just applying for non-credit courses. The last bill was SB 1406 by Senator Hill, and this was a bill that essentially just extended the pilot program for 3 years so that colleges have more time to enroll more students, such that when the legislative analyst does its analysis, it's a more robust program. Are there any questions on the state update?
What's the final date for the governor to sign bills?
September 30th. September 30th?
Any comments from the board? All right.
Is there any feedback on the baccalaureate? Where are we with that? I mean, do we have any sense of what the governor's going to do there? Since we have about 12 more days.
So, you know, we certainly don't speak for the governor, but the staff has been very supportive of our positions on all of these bills. I expect that the governor will sign, but you never know. I think you will see a lot more bill signings coming forward. The governor has been involved in a lot of other issues related to climate and other things. So I think they are now hunkering down and working on those bills.
Okay, federal.
We'll move on to the federal update. On the federal side, since the last board meeting, we've largely been busy providing comments to the Department of Education about a number of proposed changes to regulations. This first set of comments focused on a series of regulations that were adopted under the Obama administration in response to the closure of Corinthian. Essentially, President Obama provided something called borrower defense to repayment, which would allow a student who was defrauded, who has federal loans, to go through a process and have those federal loans forgiven. The department has essentially chosen to narrow the scope of the students that would qualify for that type of loan forgiveness. Our estimates are that there's over 20,000 applications from California students pending with the department. It's unclear how many of those students will qualify under the new rules that are being promulgated currently. The proposed changes would require students to be in default before they seek relief. Obviously, that's concerning because going into default has really negative implications for your own personal financial record and your ability to qualify for other things. It also would establish a statute of limitations. Under the current regulations, students have 6 years after they identify that they have been a victim of fraud to apply for forgiveness. Under these rules, they would have 30 to 65 days after they go into default to initiate their right for forgiveness. Chancellor Oakley provided comments to the department encouraging them to implement the 2016 rules and move forward with processing those existing applications pending with the department. The courts seem to agree that the department needs to implement those current rules. Just last week, DC District Court ruled that Secretary DeVos's delay of the current rule was unlawful. They've provided the department until October 12th to come up with a stronger justification of their delay. So we're a little bit still in limbo about what will happen with those rules and with the existing students. think the reason we've talked about this being important to community colleges is because of so many students who were defrauded by schools like Corinthian end up in our system. And if they can come to our system with a clean slate and not hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans, they have a better chance of being successful. The second set of rules focused on the gainful employment rules developed by the Obama administration. You might recall that I was a negotiator for these regulations. I clearly wasn't very successful. So the rule is really complex, and I won't try and explain the whole thing, but at its core, it establishes a debt to earnings ratio. And the principle here is that students shouldn't be taking on more debt than they have the ability to pay back based on their future earnings. And if a college's program that's career education focused results in students taking on more debt that they can ultimately pay back in a reasonable time frame, then the program is no longer eligible to receive federal financial aid. The rule is not perfect. I think many folks in the audience who've worked on the financial aid front would say that it's really complex, that there's a lot of reporting required, and it can be difficult for community colleges to comply based on the low staffing ratios we usually have in our financial aid offices. As a negotiator, I talked a lot about trying to balance the burden on good institutions with the importance of consumer protection. Our letter from the Chancellor says something similar about the importance of that balance, and that we would be more than willing to work together towards a new rule that better balances those two factors, but that eliminating the rule in its entirety would only hurt students. And then the final set of comments that we provided. So the first phase in developing a regulatory change at the federal level is for the department to initiate what's called the development of a negotiating committee. So essentially they've done that. They've notified stakeholders that they'll be developing a negotiating committee that will look at rules around accreditation, specifically as it relates to regular and substantive interaction between students and faculty members, as well as the role of the state in providing oversight of institutions. So our comments around this notification are really general because we don't yet know what rules will be proposed by the department. The comments really focus on the importance of balancing consumer protection with the importance of a strong regulatory structure, and that we approach changes to any current regulations with an understanding of the exemptions to those current rules and why the current rules were created. So the next step in this process will be that the department will receive recommendations for individuals to participate in negotiated rulemaking. If anyone's interested, please let me know. And then after the negotiations commence, the committees usually meet for 3 months. And then if they are able to reach agreement, the department has to essentially enforce the agreement that was reached by the negotiators. If they don't reach agreement, the department can issue whatever rules it would like to, which is what we saw happen with defense to repayment and gainful employment. Really, that's the update I have for you. I just was going to mention quickly that last week the House and Senate conferees at the federal level reached agreement on an omnibus spending bill that included a number of small changes to higher education funding. Most notably, it proposes a $100 increase to the maximum Pell Grant award. So that would bring the maximum Pell Grant to $6,195. The package is pending with the president. If it's not signed, we face a potential government shutdown. So hopefully we'll see action on that package. I'm happy to take any questions on the federal update.
I have a couple, or a couple comments. I read that they appointed a deputy secretary for, or assistant secretary for higher education. Could you comment on that?
I don't have any comments about that individual.
Say no more.
That's not good.
Okay, now you have to comment.
What is
Yes.
that? What is that person's name? You don't
Right on
know.
a sticky note.
Yeah, exactly. I can't
Oh,
remember
you-
the individual's
oh, okay.
name, yeah.
Bill has a question.
Okay, so you just okay.
Oh, look at that, it's in my,
It's in
Yeah,
your
I thought
in my written update here. Let me just reference that. Robert King has been appointed as the Assistant Secretary of Post-Secondary Education.
I guess I had read that his background wasn't terrible, and I was just curious if it's true.
Quite the vote of confidence.
Well, he previously served as the president and CEO of the Arizona Community Foundation and chancellor of the
Right.
State University of New York.
Okay. I'm sorry. The other comment, I strongly support all the comments you guys have been filing on these regulations, and just want to know if we have many allies out there, and if any is any legal action planned. What is the what's going on in the atmosphere there?
So probably our general counsel could speak better to these issues, but we have signed on to support a number of court cases moving forward on these fronts, most notably around borrower defense. Our attorney general has signed on to a case to enforce the current rules, and we've signed on in support of that. There's obviously a whole coalition of consumer advocates, of student organizations, of veterans groups that continue to advocate to the department and to Congress about the importance of these rules.
Are other community college systems as aggressive as we are?
We are aligned with the position of AACC, the Association of Community Colleges, and the Association of Community College Trustees in support of the existing gainful employment and borrower defense rules.
Okay, thanks. Anybody? Oh, I'm good. Okay, thank you. So let's move on. We've got board member reports, and then we do have some public comments. So this is your chance to tell us what you've been up to that everybody on the board needs to hear about, and the public at large.
Your time limitation?
It's an internal clock that people keep to themselves. So we can go around this way. You don't have to comment, but you're welcome to. So, or Zaragoza.
I have no comment at this time.
It's been a pretty hefty last 2 months since the last time we met. One of the most interesting ones was I was featured in an article in EdSource, and my old Congress member called me out of the clear blue one day, Congressman George Miller, and we had a cool conversation about education, and pretty much I was expressing my concerns that a lot of students face in terms of the weird placement in terms of financial aid, how in California or in the Bay Area, for example, $117,000 is considered low income, but for a lot of families, that's the cutoff for financial aid, and it puts a lot of students in a very bad situation. And then also I had an opportunity to sit down with students who were victims of the fires. So it's actually kind of a weird story how that ties into. So as many of you have probably seen my camouflage backpack, I'm in the National Guard. And so I was activated and I saw a fire map. It was probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen. 8 miles across of just pure fire. And I had an opportunity to sit down with some of those students, and I just wanted to applaud all the students around the state who have been resilient enough to keep striving and pushing forward with their education through these difficult times. And then lastly, I just wanted to welcome the 3 new members to the board. I hope this meeting didn't scare you. And thank you to the good folks at Southwestern College for having us.
Really not a whole lot of updates. I was just confirmed, so not a whole lot scares me, so we should be okay. But you know, very thankful for being here and everyone's support and getting us up to speed on what's going on and what we need to do. So just looking forward to learning some more.
I've got a few updates, but I wanted to start off just to my fellow board members, expressing my appreciation for the insightful comments and questions that I've heard this meeting. We always have some great ideas, but I think the new folks have added a lot, and I think this is a pretty well-functioning team. Thanks to Southwestern for being great hosts. But since the last meeting, I've attended San Bernardino Valley College, taking a look specifically at their technology building there. And as I mentioned previously, they've got a lot of really great programs, especially focused on more advanced manufacturing that's occurring out in the area, especially in aeronautics. And there's a lot of businesses really starting to grow out there, but they're challenged in providing the kind of workforce at the scale that they may need to really expand that manufacturing base out there because of the limitation of the facilities at their college. And I think the fact that they're on the capital outlay plan is very timely, and the fact that they're trying to get another bond to help fund that is very timely. But taking a look and seeing the facilities challenges, and the effect that the facilities challenges has on providing quality instruction and doing the strong workforce efforts that we need to do, it's pretty impressive what a lot of these colleges are having to put up with in providing that instruction. I also attended the IEPI budget workshop down in Newport Beach, and then went up to San Francisco for the online college design effort with some of the other executive committee members for the Board of Trustees.
Okay, I've been working with the Chancellor created the African American, I guess, African American Black community panel, and we're going to have a town hall in Los Angeles very soon. And so I've been working with the staff to try to put that together. Now, LA's become a very unique situation in terms of African American leadership at the top level. There aren't any African Americans in the Chancellor's office in the academic area. There are no African American board members, and there are no African American colleges out of the 9 colleges. But it has the largest amount of African American students. So this is going to be a very important meeting. The ideas that come out of this meeting, we hope to move forward and advocate for the Los Angeles district.
I'd like to congratulate our new leadership on a relatively bump-free first meeting.
Relatively.
And in my day job, I interact with a number of youth aging out of foster care. And I just wanted to say, I note every day that a goodly percentage of them are pursuing a community college education. And given that 70% of foster youth aspire to pursue higher education and 3 to 5% make it, it is a daily reminder of the vital pipeline that we're providing these youth as a way out and up. So it makes me proud, and they're pursuing every type of study you might imagine. It's a reminder that the work we do is really vital to a population that's largely overlooked and underserved. And I know we've increased those supports over the years, so thank you to all of you for making that happen as well.
Work our way.
Oh, well, then it's my turn, and okay, I'll take.
It's almost noon.
Okay, I'll go fast. Again, I wanted to extend a welcome to our newest Board of Governor members as well, and I appreciate the fact that we're using the cohort model to be ultimately successful. We are the class of 2018. And then, of course, to recognize and commend our president on his first Board of Governors meeting. Well done. And our interim vice president as well. I wanted to give a special thanks to San Bernardino Valley College and their district Board of Trustees President Joseph Williams, their Chancellor Bruce Barron, and the President of San Bernardino Valley College, Diana Rodriguez, for doing such an amazing job, giving us a tour and acclimating us to the incredible programs that they have in their career education program. But I was particularly thrilled with the professional development commitment they made to their part-time faculty, bringing them together for a series of workshops and providing opportunities for them to lunch together. And that's something that I haven't seen at a lot of community colleges. I had the opportunity to attend the budget workshop as well, and huge shout out to Christian Osmana. He did an amazing job bringing the new student-centered funding formula down to our level so that we could understand it and then go out and spread the message. But I joined Board of Governors member Hildegard Aguinaldo at the Zero Textbook Cost Degree and Open Educational Resources Summit at College of the Canyons, and I was just floored with what is going on with ZTCs and OERs, and I really hope that our ability to scale it is unlimited, because from the information that they provided, we're talking about, you know, a $5 million investment providing $42 million in savings for our students. That's phenomenal. You see with the baccalaureate programs that $10,000 price tag, that's the tuition price tag, and that's not the cost of supplies or materials or textbooks. And for our associate degree students and certificate students, it could be even more.
that's my report. Wonderful. I echo all the congratulatory remarks by my fellow board members, and just to tag along to what Member Grande was saying, I attended this Zero Textbook Cost Summit as well. It was at College of the Canyons. There were two speakers in particular, or two guests in particular, whose points of view were very much valued. Hal Plotkin, who I guess is a very well-known individual in the industry, added a lot of context and color to the role of poverty and finance in getting a degree, and I appreciated hearing directly from him what the challenges are like on the ground. So he was a very moving speaker, and I look forward to hopefully hearing him again sometime very soon. The second person, I forget her name now, but she was considered one of the greatest philanthropists in her college because she had put a statistics textbook out into the public forum, and she made it, I think it was like $33 million or something like that back to the students. So she wasn't the richest person, or Barbara Elowski. She wasn't the richest person or necessarily had, $33 million in the bank, but she did make an impact, and everyone is hoping that there are other individuals who follow suit. That was the second time that I've been to COC. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, even though I heard you had a very surprise and awesome speaker. But since then, I had also attended COC, who gave me a site visit of their campus tour, of their campus, and also of their university center, which is really a state-of-the-art facility that is very unique in the country. And because we had our online college meeting from a distance location at West LA College, had some robust discussions with the leadership there as well. So I look forward to hearing more stories from the field and having site visits and meetings elsewhere.
Real briefly, just want to add my welcome to the 3 new board members. And I think with the addition of these 3 members, we are a full 17-member board until Cecilia left us, which was only a few weeks ago. I also want to congratulate to my 2 seniors for your ascension to the presidency and vice presidency. And
seniors.
You have an ARP card.
Oops. And congratulate not only this year, but for next year also, should this Cuban-style election process stand. I also want to thank Dr. Murillo and your team for putting on such a great hospitality and going off your way to host us. I was able to attend 10 days ago the AB 705 talk by PPIC, in which our very able Vice Chancellor of Government Relations was on the panel. And while I sense some dissent in the room by some of the questions posed, I am even more convinced that the multiple measures that we are implementing will reap major benefits for our students in the system. And I think I want to end with the note you mentioned yesterday, Mr. President, about growing or being stronger together. I think all of us in the system can look forward to that. And in the next year or so, if we can direct our energy positively to all the major initiatives that we are embarking on, I think that'd be great for the system. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to call out again the Foundation for College, Community College. I don't know if you guys got this little form here. Kind of highlights what we're doing as a representative of the foundation. I do just want to call out one thing, which is the undocumented Student Week of Action. I think that's something that's the second year was called out and talked about. And one of the things that the foundation actually brought in funding to do this. And the James Irvine Foundation is funding that week. I think it's up to $100,000 that came in. And that's kind of the role of the foundation, is to find money to do programs that really help students. So that's my report.
No report, just a congratulations to the board members that also were confirmed by the State Senate to ensure that their ongoing service to the system. I wanted to acknowledge that. I know a number of them went through that process this last week. And then a heartfelt thanks also to Dr. Murillo and her team here at Southwestern College for an extraordinary 2 days of visits to expose us to all the good things that are happening here and throughout the system.
So I too want to welcome the new members, but I also want to thank the entire board for the the questions and the engagement on all these issues. The more we do that, the better we are in terms of being helpful to both the stakeholders and to staff. And so I really, truly loved the questions and the engagement. I also want to thank Southwest. I had a wonderful time. I love your students. They are articulate, they are engaged, and so thank you for rolling out the carpet. It's a wonderful campus, and I'm so glad I had an opportunity to meet everyone here. And I'm taking some of your examples back to my own district. They sometimes hate that when I do, but they know I've gone someplace else. I've got this great idea. But we need to feed off of each other, and that's really, really important. So thank you so much. And then finally, I was invited as a Board of Governors member to speak on AB 705 as part of the CCLC, the leagues. They had a webinar on AB 705. Part of that panel was Katie Hearn, John Heck, and then our own John Stanskus. I thought it was wonderful. It was actually subscribed at about 103. We had about 67 on the listening portion of that, and the questions were very important. So the more we put out what the guidance is, and the more that folks are willing to listen to what that guidance is, the better that guidance is, the better in terms of implementation at the local level. So again, that's the end of my report. Oh, and thank you for your support of me as the interim vice president. I appreciated that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We believe we have some public comment.
We do.
I'm going to wrap up.
Okay, so we have several comments. We're going to start with, again, 3 minutes in duration. We're going to start, and I'm going to call up 3 at a time. So the first one is Jan Jarrell, Lena Carew, and Denise Castro.
Hello, President Epstein, VP Haynes, and Chancellor Oakley, and members of the Board of Governors. My name is Jan Jarrell, and I'm a professor and academic senate president at San Diego City College. I've been in the San Diego Community College District since 1989 with 12 years at City College. And I want to give you a little background before I give my message to you, but we have a relatively new president named Dr. Ricky Shabazz, and when he came, he started asking people, what's City College known for? And just to try to get, what is our brand? Who are we? And social justice is at the heart of San Diego City College, and that response kept coming up. And for example, we are in year 5 of our Social Justice and Education Conference, unique to community college. It's offered every spring. I invite you to come and see the students, faculty, and speakers, all and community members all engage in this learning. In fact, in our academic senate, the pillars that we have at every meeting and on our letterhead are equity, advocacy, and transparency. These are values that we hold very dear. And so I just must be honest that last year we found ourselves in a difficult situation where we were on the receiving end of many initiatives, bills. I don't need to name them all, but you know, the funding formula, the online college, guided pathways. And our faculty were expressing a lot of concern about the speed with which these came down, and more importantly, about the lack of shared governance processes in terms of the development and adoption of many of these initiatives. And as a result, and much deliberation, we did pass a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Oakley,
related to this issue with shared governance. And we didn't do it lightly. It's the first time that, in my knowledge of the Senate, that we have had a vote of no confidence. And yet it felt like this was the way that we could communicate how we were reacting to out here down in the southern part of the state to what was coming down from Sacramento. And
30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. We also passed at the same time a resolution in favor of increasing funding for full-time faculty. And we do feel like these are connected, that some of these initiatives are costly, and what we feel would best serve students is additional full-time faculty. And so we're here to ask for your leadership in seeking collegial consultation, deep and broad faculty input. We are here to work with you. We have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of experience, and at the end of the day, we're here to help our students be successful.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lena Carew, and I'm the co-founder and executive director for an organization called Students Making a Change, SMAC for short. I'm a proud graduate of City College of San Francisco and UC Berkeley. And when I co-founded Students Making a Change, I always like to ground it in my early experiences in advocacy. In 2009, locally, we were fighting for education equity, and one of the first public debates I was in centered around whether or not the racial achievement gap existed in community colleges. So I'm going to start there. And I co-founded Students Making a Change in the interest of developing the leadership of students of color in community colleges to empower them to become policy advocates and community organizers to transform higher education. And when we founded in 2010, we took on several different systemic issues, barriers that contribute to the racial achievement gap, such as biased placement testing that has low predictive value, such as harmful remedial education, and unequal and insufficient resources for undocumented students. And for 8 years, my peers and I, and now students who have come with me today who are going to share their stories, continue to fight to dismantle these systemic issues. And that do actively prevent students from crossing the finish line to completion, to degree, and to transfer. So I'm here to really introduce the students that I've brought from San Francisco this morning to present to you, who are going to tell you both their personal stories that illustrate the urgent need for immediate implementation of AB 705, as well as their role in urging City College of San Francisco to expedite its implementation in service of students, and to ask the board to require the Chancellor's office to provide additional guidelines so that California community colleges implement as soon as possible AB 705. So with that, I'm going to turn to Denise.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Denise Castro. I'm also part of Students Making a Change, and I'll be sharing Yair's story, a community college student that couldn't be here today. I'm here to request that the Chancellor's Office creates additional guidelines to all colleges for implementation of AB 705. I especially hope that these guidelines will include a mandate for immediate communication to all students about their rights under AB 705. When I first signed up for CCSF, I was a young 20-year-old, first-generation person of color, undocumented college student. I didn't know that I didn't have to take the placement test and I could use multiple measures. Anxiety was killing me because I didn't know what was going to be on the test. I placed 3 levels below in English. I didn't challenge the placement test because I didn't know I had those options. The remedial classes were not difficult. I felt like I was being held back, like I was back in high school. I felt used. I felt like if I was just used for enrollment purposes. I felt like a cattle just being directed. When I began the final remedial course, I worked a full-time job and attended school full-time. I had responsibilities. I wanted to finish college, and I was ready. However, I felt like I was suffocating in the timeline of remedial classes that I didn't need. When you make someone feel like they're wasting their time, eventually they find themselves alone. After the fact, I still wanted to finish college. I spent the next several years attempting to finish the class without success. In other words, after feeling pushed out, I left school for work. Imagine the shock and pain I felt when I heard that students do not need remedial classes. I know this to be true because of my example, but that they were not being informed of their rights by the college under AB 705. This lack of transparency is insulting. We students making a change as a group have had to do our college's job. We created recommendations for the college. We printed flyers, walked students to counseling office, walked students to matriculations office. Often offices had mixed messages and the wrong information. A lot of times we walked back and forth. Forms were popping out of nowhere with new procedures. In fact, there was a minimal sense that the college was working together and that there was any information about AB 705. It was very disheartening. The Chancellor Office needs to create additional guidelines to all colleges for the implementation of AB 705. These guidelines should include a mandate for immediate communication to all students about their rights under AB 705, and maybe even a commercial campaign. No more remedial classes, AB 705. Information should be posted everywhere that remedial classes are
30
harmful.
seconds.
The majoritarian perspective burdens students to think that remedial classes help them. Quite the contrary, however. Studies show that students do better at transfer level. Colleges need to know that students are ready now, just as they were 10 years ago. Schools have not changed the way they communicate, and that, my dear board, is the problem. There's a belief that we're dumb, reckless, and immature Bambis, when in fact we're strong people, adults ready to lead our lives.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next three would be Christian Rodriguez, Helen Yasko, and Marjorie Blinn.
Hi, my name is Christian Rodriguez, and I work for Students Making a Change, or SMAC. I help students get into college level courses who would otherwise be trapped in remedial classes by the placement test. So the Chancellor's office needs to create additional guidelines to all colleges for the implementation of AB 705s. These guidelines should require colleges to develop a way to streamline the process of self-reporting and change the placement of students currently enrolled in remedial classes after the to transfer level. To get students into these college level classes, I've been using multiple measures and having these students self-report their GPA as the way to move up. The fact that colleges have been pushing the placement test, which is not a good way to measure students' capability and has shown to have inherent bias instead of using multiple measures, reflects the mentality of a school that is setting up its students to not succeed. In placing these students into transfer level classes, I found that the administration is failing these students, who without the help of SMAC would be going to classes they learned in high school despite having more evidence that supports them to being in a college level class. In one particular case, I had this student who was planning on going to UC San Diego. Unfortunately, she had family circumstances that derailed her from going to UC San Diego, and ended up coming to City College. When she first came here, she was automatically told to take the placement test, and she was ranked into Algebra 2. For someone to plan on going to a UC and be ranked in Algebra 2 is ridiculous. It would have taken her a year for her to get to classes that actually apply to her major. And this was because the college was pushing the placement test. It wasn't pushing multiple measures, which has supposedly been in use since the 90s, which is ridiculous. Anyways, the matriculation office tried to sabotage my efforts by constantly changing the form used to self-report and by making the forms more intricate. I've had faculty threaten students by intentionally lying and saying that if they lied on their self-report form, they would be audited and investigated. The lack of before the implementation of AB 705, students have been held back for years. Personally, my aunt was in the English sequence for nearly 7 years, spending her time and money buying into this false remediation when she could have used those resources to further her career. I've had cousins who stopped going to school because they felt as if the majority of classes they were taking were repetitive, and they felt that they were stupid, when in actuality they were ranked too low. And
30 seconds.
They're ranked too low. So I gotta skip a few things now. So to alleviate these issues, the Chancellor needs to create additional guidelines for colleges for the implementation of AB 705. These guidelines should require colleges to develop a way to streamline the process of self-reporting, and these guidelines should have a procedure to place students who are in remedial classes into transfer level with a support. There needs to, instead of keeping the key to education in the hands of people who underestimate students' capabilities, you should put the keys into the hands of the students where it should be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Helen Yasko. I'm a returning student at City College of San Francisco. So here's my story with AB 705. I was raised by a single mother who worked several jobs and went to school. Growing up, I watched her struggle and never get out of poverty. It was extremely hard to see her constant battle, her stress, her pain, and fighting to put food on the table, to pay for our bills, to take care of me and my little sister. Because of her struggle, I understood from a young age the importance of earning a degree early in life. At 17, I began my own college journey with the placement test, where I was required to take one remedial math course. At 27, I have still not completed it. Being placed into that remedial math course was not only extremely upsetting, but tremendously discouraging and hurt me rather than aid in my education as intended. I felt embarrassed and inadequate, to say the least. My mindset going into college was less than hopeful. I had already been defeated. College, the tool to guarantee my success, to provide my growth and expand my mind, had betrayed me in the form of a bubble test, the placement test. The only thing I was now guaranteed was my inevitable dropout. And so at 17, I was fated to repeat in my mother's footsteps. At 26, determined to graduate this time around, I learned about AB 705 through SMAC. I used it to place out of remedial math and into transfer level. This semester, I'm applying for transfer. Without it, I'd still be trapped in sequence. AB 705 ensures equity by focusing on ability rather than privilege. It lets students who are otherwise predetermined for the uphill battle that awaits them because of their background or race or poverty or even area code, and gives them a chance to determine their own success. By waiting for full implementation, we risk their loss. Thousands of students, by subjecting them to courses we know do not serve them and in fact lead them to never finish. If I had AB 705 at 17, my life would have played out differently. My mother's life would have played out differently. The Chancellor's office must create additional guidelines to all colleges for the implementation of AB 705. Today, I ask these guidelines incentivize schools to implement AB 705 now by penalizing colleges that don't. Facilitate the process immediately, because schools like City College will not be ready come spring of 19. We must abolish the placement tests, remove all remedial courses, and replace them with the guided and additional support for students, which includes ESL students. We need co-rec classes, increased in online tutoring, workshops, added teacher assistants inside and outside classroom, as well as in study groups. By investing in all students, we close the ever-growing equity gap to create greater opportunities and relinquish barriers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marjorie. Glenn, and I'm here to request that the Chancellor's office create additional guidelines to all colleges for implementing of AB 705. I especially hope that these guidelines will include mandatory training for all counselors. I am a 30-year-old student at City College of San Francisco. I'm one of the many students that fits all the labels that ever existed. The welfare baby, the undocumented student, the single Latina with kids, the person of color living in the projects, the student that every educator pities because of my background. When I began college at Contra Costa College, I took the placement test and placed 2 levels below transfer math and English. The first year, I was successfully completed my remedial courses, but the second year, I struggled between maintaining a roof over my head and my education. As a result, I dropped out. 10 years later, I decided to go back to community college to enhance my job and life skills. When I enrolled, I found out the placement test was still required. When the administration at San Francisco City College pushed every way possible to take the placement test, I panicked. And I did what most mothers do, and that was research and ask about my options. I came across a form to weigh the placement test. Went to the counselor office, but they refused to see me just because I hadn't taken the placement test. It wasn't until I insisted and told her about the waiver that she gave me the time of day. After my session with the counselor, I had a new ed plan that said it would take me 3 years plus to get my AA. I walked out of there disappointed and heartbroken. That semester, I came across this wonderful teacher who told me about student making a change. At the end of the semester, I met them and learned about their work on AB 705 campaign. I was really excited and I almost cried when I read the content of the bill. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I decided to go back to the counselor to tell her about AB 705. To my surprise, she didn't know about it, and neither did her colleagues. I left confused and puzzled. I mean, after all, counselors play an important role in our education. As the law came in effect January 1st, 2018, my team from Student Making a Change began mobilizing to hold administration accountable to push them to inform students of their rights. As a result, as usual, we got the runaround, but we're not going to stand there and watch a student be subjected to remedial hell. We created ab75.org, that is our website, printed flyers, put up posters, outreaching, talking to anyone that would listen.
30 seconds.
So today, board members, we are requesting that the Chancellor Office provide additional implementation guidelines for all colleges that will include mandatory training for all counselors. I ask you to please save thousands of students like myself with limited resources from unnecessary expensive courses. We are losing students every semester by not informing them of their right under AB 705 and by not ordering mandatory training across the state. AB 705 can be the beginning of closing the equity gap in the income inequality in California.
Thank you. We appreciate all of you came down all the way from San Francisco to tell your story. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker card is John Stanska.
It's never good to follow students.
I know,
Students
I
are
was saying
awesome
that
to
under my
listen
breath.
to.
It is a hard act to follow.
Good afternoon, President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, and Chancellor Oakley. I am just giving you an update about the Academic Senate since the last meeting in July. I wanted to tell you we had our Part-Time Faculty Institute at the beginning of August. It had over 200 part-time faculty there providing professional development around all academic and professional matters for our part-time faculty. And last weekend we had our Guided Pathways Academic Academy that was sold out in the Bay Area, where we did talk about the implementation of Guided Pathways with faculty. We appreciated the partnership with the Chancellor's Office and the RP group and the Career Ladders Project. I'm getting the C's mixed up. In that presentation, it was sold out at 200 faculty, and more showed up anyway and told us that they did not register, but they would just sit in the back. So we let them in. And I wanted to let you know that our fall plenary session is November 1st through 3rd in Irvine, and all of you are welcome to attend. And that's where you will see delegates from all 114 colleges to come and engage in activities around governance. And we've built our program around our areas of emphasis this year, which are the implementation of AB 705. We have added some regional meetings on a time frame that we have never worked on before. We had an executive committee meeting and have a set of regional meetings scheduled for 2 weeks later that are sold out. And by sold out, I mean there's no more space. We don't actually charge money for those things. So the room is at capacity. How about that? So the plenary session is structured around AB 705 implementation, guided pathways implementation, the strong workforce recommendations around CTE equivalency and credit for prior learning, particularly for veterans, and faculty diversification.
30 seconds.
I believe you received my president's report that outlined the efforts of the Academic Senate to provide leadership and professional development to the field in these 4 areas. And I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you. We're a little over time here. I just want to say a couple of quick things before we end. First of all, again, I'm going to add my voice to the chorus, thanking the Southwestern College team for an awesome couple of days for us here. We really appreciate it. I have a couple of follow-up to-dos, I think, from the meeting. One is to follow up on the Emoja situation and to see if we can get that done as quickly as possible. We have this new technology committee that I want to again invite if anybody on the board is interested, please let me know. Also, there's been an interest expressed to me about board members visiting colleges. I plan to do that, and I would encourage those who are interested in trying to coordinate those visits to get in touch with me. And last but not least, I understand that it's the day of the birth of a very important person here, Vice Chancellor Paul Feast, and we want to at least give him a round of applause. And with that, we are adjourned, and we're going to be back in this room pretty quickly as a Board of Trustees.